just so that we're on time. All right, just so everyone knows, we are streaming live on YouTube.
Good evening, and thanks to everyone for joining tonight's City of Charleston Citizens Police Advisory Council meeting. I'm Twan Fielding, the chairman for the council, and at this time, I'm now calling the meeting to order. Before we get started, I do want to thank Director Gordon for joining us tonight from the new crime lab that the City of Charleston Police Department has. And I also wish to thank Ms. Amber Johnson, who is the coordinator, chairman for the Special Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Reconciliation. Thank you so very much to both of you for planning a presentation for us to share with us and the community. Many thanks to those of you who have joined us as we're streaming live through YouTube. And as always, we want to thank Bethany Whitaker with the City of Charleston for being with us and ensuring that we stay on track and that we have so many of our representatives from our City of Charleston's Police Department that you'll get a chance to hear from later on tonight during the meeting. During the roll call, as Bethany does for tonight, I'm asking that we please state the district that you're representing and your city council member's name. If you are a high school student, please state that you are one of our high school students in process of joining us. We do understand that your name will be going before the city council at city council's next meeting, but we are happy that Mayor Tecklenburg has been able to review your names and your information, and your interest is there with us. So we look forward to working with you here very shortly in the very near future. So please, again, members, as your name is called, please state your district that you represent and your city council member. We're trying to enhance our communications in every way that we are able to do so. So with that said, Bethany, if you would please start our roll call.
Yes. Frank Walsh is not with us yet, but he represents District 1, which is Councilwoman Del Chapo. Ryan Davis.
Yep, I'm here, and Kevin Shealy is our councilman for District 2.
All right. Twan Fielding.
I'm from District 3, and my council member is Mr. Chakrin.
Yep. Mary Alice Mack is also not present with us, but she is District 4. Paul Tamburino.
Paul Tamburino, I'm representing District 5 with Councilman Carl Brady.
All right. George Palmer is also not with us, but he represents District 6, which is Councilmember Gregory. And Kevin Smith is also not with us, but he represents District 7, which is Councilmember Waring's district. Next is Emily Broom.
Hey, Emily Broom, District 8, Michael Seekings.
All right. Next is Melvin Hack-Ezel. And he was on here. I believe he dropped off, so I'm waiting for him to join back, but he is District 9. And next is Camden Norris Shields.
Hey, representing District 10 and Councilman Griffin.
All right. Next is Matt Austin, who is not present with us, but he represents District 11, which is Councilmember Appel. And I don't see Doris Grant on here either, but she represents District 12, which is Councilwoman Jackson. And then we have, nope, Peter dropped off as well, Twan. Peter Beck.
I saw him. Yeah, I did see him earlier.
He was our high school student for this last semester. I believe he'll be dropping off probably after this meeting.
Okay.
And then we have Joe Lysite. Joe, are you there?
Yeah, Joe's there, but he's muted.
Oh, okay. Well, I do know that Joe is a mayor's selection. All right, and then we have Jerome Harris.
Jerry Harris, mayor selection.
All right, Max Milliken.
Max Milliken, mayoral appointee.
All right, and then we do have, just so everyone knows, we have 2 new students that will be joining us They should be going for city council approval in the next 2 weeks at the June 15th meeting. I'm trying to coordinate that. And first is Becca White,
I'm Becca White. I'm a high school representative.
and then also Moyu Yamaguchi.
I'm Moyu Yamaguchi, and I'm also a high school representative.
All right. And Tuan, let me double check, but I don't believe we have a quorum yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 9 right now. So we just need Melvin to Mr. Ezel to join again, and then we will have a quorum.
Okay, well, what we can do though is based on timing, if the council agrees, since we would need to vote on acceptance of the minutes or any changes that would need to happen to the minutes, we can skip to the citizens' participation period. If I see just head nods or thumbs up without voting, we move on to citizens' grade. We do not have any citizens that signed up to speak with us tonight. However, I do have some information to share with us that has happened since our last meeting. As a reminder, please remember that we will have virtual Citizens Academy dates. We selected our Citizens Academy for us to attend October 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th. Those dates are listed in the minutes from our last meeting. I just wanted to make sure your eyes didn't cause you to skip past those when you were reading the minutes from our last meeting, as the expectation is that all of us as council members would be present at that academy. If you are interested in signing up for the ride-alongs, council members, Deputy Chief Thompson did inform me that ride-alongs have now been restarted. He will send us an email on tomorrow for us to be able to register for the ride-alongs. Next point of interest is, again, in an effort to help us with communications, we're going to reinstate on our agenda where the council members, where we would actually share any concerns we receive from constituents via our attendance at neighborhood meetings, other organizations, religious and civic groups, as well as from our conversations with our city council member. We used to do that when we were meeting in person, maybe some of you may recall, but we stopped that during the virtual process. And really it was just my oversight as chairman to not bring it back to your attention. But having sat on the communication subcommittee, I realized that's really an important item, and we're trying to reinforce the need for us to communicate more to help with meeting the mission of our Citizens Police Advisory Council. So please be prepared for the next meeting to be able to do that. And in stating the next meeting, we set our next meeting for August the 5th. So if you will go ahead and mark that on your calendars, August the 5th. And in keeping with that schedule, the next meeting following August the 5th would be October 7th and December 3rd.
Tuan, Deputy Chief Walker has his hand up.
Okay. Deputy Chief Walker.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Twan, how you
Good
doing?
evening. Good. How are you?
I'm good. Just to follow up, and I was going to bring it up on this call. As you know, there's been some changes as far as organizational wise into the police department.
Right.
With the October Citizens Academy, we're going to send you the new dates. We're kind of doing a new platform, and actually starting with your group. It won't be a modified Citizens Academy as originally planned. It will be a full-scale academy to give you a full insight of the department. But I've also reached out to your representatives, the city council, and making it a dual purpose academy for both of you guys for the insight purpose. But there will be some modifications that will be coming forth. Captain McFadden and Captain Cortella will be pretty much hands-on in coordinating the Citizens Academy moving forward, but it will be catered to provide a lot more insight to some of the topics of discussion that we have here. in the past and give a lot more detail as far as the workings and policies of the police department.
Okay.
So
Now, sir, we didn't talk about the agenda that's actually pressed during those sessions. We were just determining which option we wanted for Cpac. And at the time, we were given 4 weeks in October, which would be the 6th, the 13th, 20th, and 27th from 6:30 to 8:30, or December 1st, 8th, 15th, and 22nd. And we voted and selected the October dates.
yeah,
Do you by any chance? Sir?
October will still be the dates.
Okay.
However, it's not going to be modified. It will actually be actually probably 3 more weeks added on to that to cover what needs to be covered. I think it's very important for this group, as well as our council members, to be fully engaged in what's going on and how we're operating. So that's the platform that we're creating. We'll have more insight as we press forward, and we can probably provide you with an agenda in the upcoming sessions. But
Okay.
it's still going for October.
And will there be additional dates added to those 4 dates that I stated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I will get that all to you. Like I said, it's just been some changes, and
Yes, sir.
I want to at least put it out as soon as I can, because I've approached several of our council people as well. So this will be a session for you and our council to go through this portion of the training.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you so much, Deputy Chief Walker. Really appreciate that. Any questions, council members, while we're still waiting on attaining a quorum? Okay. Thank you. And now the other thing is, please start thinking about if you would like to do the August, October, and/or December meetings in person, or continue to have them virtual. We're still waiting for one additional council member to join us, so we would have a quorum and be able to vote on our minutes. But rather than continue to delay, I'm so happy that we've been able to have, again, Ms. Judith Gordon, the director of the new forensics lab that the City of Charleston Police Department has built. It's a beautiful building over on Bees Ferry Road. Thank you so very much, Ms. Gordon, for being able to present to us tonight and share with us tonight. Please present to us in your very own way. Thanks again.
Good evening, everyone. I am so grateful to be with you here tonight and to have an opportunity to share with you a little bit about our crime lab. I understand that after this presentation, within the next few weeks, I will be able to host you here for tours. And I'm really excited about being able to go in more in depth in what we do and show you some of our technologies and our plans for the future. But just to give you an overview tonight, this project started back in 2007. We had a needs assessment conducted of the Forensic Services Division. It was done by a company called Heary. And from that point on, we were working toward building this crime laboratory. Construction actually began in August of 2016. We retained SMHE as architects and McLaren, Lowry, and Wilson as the consulting architects, specifically for crime laboratories. They have a lot of experience in that area and have designed a lot of crime labs, including the FBI lab, and they're currently working on the SLUD laboratory in Columbia. So their input was really invaluable to optimizing the design of this space. We moved in February of 2021 and had the ribbon cutting in March. We've already seen some immediate impacts of this project. First of all, we were able to consolidate 3 leased spaces into 1. So that gave us enough space to meet our present needs, but the building was also designed to meet the needs of the future, the public safety needs and the forensic services needs. And so we've realized immediately improvements in evidence storage, packaging, workflow, and security. You know, for instance, in the past, we were moving evidence, critical evidence like drugs and firearms around the city in order to get the processing done that needed to be done for the forensic exams. And of course, we no longer have to do that. We have increased collaboration among staff. A lot of my personnel are cross-trained. And so being all together in one facility has allowed them to take part in different kinds of examinations. We have more space. We have a dual capacity processing bay, which is really nice for when we get cars in and have to do search warrants and collect evidence from the car. So it's really wonderful to have that dual processing capabilities. And of course, we have enhanced security and access control. We are an accredited laboratory. We're accredited by a organization called ANAB. We achieved that accreditation in 1998, and I'm proud to say we were the first municipal agency in South Carolina to do that. And we've maintained it uninterrupted and without any issues ever since that time. We have planned for the future with this laboratory. You know, it's currently a state-of-the-art facility, and it optimizes laboratory operations, but we also have space to grow in two really critical areas that we really need here in the city of Charleston. The first is in firearms examinations and ballistics. We are acquiring a full-size water tank in order to test firearms. It's important to do that to recover cartridge casings so that they can be compared with cartridge casings that are recovered from a crime scene. All of this is done in a system called IBIS, the Integrated Ballistic Identification System, and we just signed a memorandum of understanding with ATF to become a partner in NIBIN. NIBIN is the name of the network, the National Integrated Ballistic Identification Network. And so we are currently in the process, and we'll probably have it accomplished and online within the next 90 days to be able to operate our own NIBIN site and make those comparisons here. You know, right now we are able to use the county site with a lot of restrictions based on their caseload and the availability of their facility. And so it'll be wonderful to have that ability here and to be able to set our own priorities and to be able to improve our turnaround time. Because what NIBIN will do is match a firearm to a cartridge casing or match a cartridge casing to another cartridge casing from another scene. And we've seen benefits now for several years in the ability to connect one of our cases with another one of our cases or one of our cases with a case in another jurisdiction. It's a very powerful investigative tool and has, really helped our detectives, solve crimes expeditiously. The other service that we anticipate growing here in the laboratory, we have a laboratory space designed specifically to optimize that, is DNA analysis. We currently don't do it. We use the state laboratory or a private laboratory. But we have certainly the need and the caseload to be able to provide those services here. So right now we have the space, and we also have a lot of the necessary requirements within the space, like laboratory casework and refrigerators and biosafety cabinets. And we're exploring a number of different ways to get the funding for the personnel and the equipment. We're currently in discussions with other agencies, hoping to get some cooperation that way, because they have the same needs that we do. And as we all know, criminals don't respect jurisdictional lines. So we're hoping that we can work together and collaborate on being able to identify funding sources in order to get the laboratory up and running. So we've planned, there'll be a couple of opportunities for Cpac to take tours of this facility. I was thinking about doing it maybe in early July, and I'll send out a couple of sign-up geniuses in order to, give everybody an opportunity to sign up. And at that time, I'll take you through the facilities. I'll explain each one of the services that we currently offer and talk a little bit about, our plans for the future. I think that you'll find it to be a very beautiful building. Besides being very practical and very efficient, there was a lot of design elements that were meant to, kind of enhance the space. And I'm excited to talk about those and point them out as we go through the facility. Does anybody have any questions?
Director Gordon, I do have one. You said early July is when you're looking at the tours, and you'll send it.
Yes, ma'am. Does that work out well with your schedule?
I think so.
Okay. I was thinking about having one in the morning and then one in the afternoon to accommodate, different schedules for people. We're still operating under some COVID restrictions, although others have been lifted. So I wanted to confine the tours to groups of 10. It also gets difficult to, address a group larger than that in the individual spaces and answer questions at all. So I'll limit the group to 10 people.
Okay.
I was thinking of doing 2. If we need to do 3, that's fine too. I'm excited about the opportunity to show the place off.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so very much. We'll look forward to seeing your the Google poll or the Genie that you're going to send out to us to be able to select the date that we'll attend. So council members, please keep an eye out on your emails for that, so we'd be able to submit our date option. Our preferred
You're very
date.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Now I see we've got Frank on.
We do. We have a quorum now, Tuan.
Good. So let's go back and do a little bit of cleanup before we go to Ms. Johnson regarding the minutes. Did everyone get a chance to read through the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as published.
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. It's been properly moved and seconded that we accept the minutes as published. Any question? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please thumbs up. Use your hand reach feature or raise your hand. Okay, I think that's everybody. Bethany?
Yep,
No
it looks like it.
opposes? Mhm. You got it, Bethany?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. So the motion has been approved. Now let us move on back on our agenda to item Roman numeral 6, Special Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Reconciliation presentation from Ms. Johnson. And again, Ms. Johnson, thank you so very much for, this is your second time visiting with us. We appreciate you coming back now as we hear that there have been some actions that have been completed with the commission, and we wanted to ensure that we had a pulse of what was going on with the commission to see what we can add to what we're doing that fits within the scope of our guidelines as defined by the City Council. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you for having me again. Those of you who are not familiar, the Special Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Reconciliation was created not last summer. There are 6 council members on it, 7 community members. Those 7 community members are leading 7 subcommittees, one of them being criminal justice reform, which is being led by one of your own, Mr. Harris. So we're grateful for his work that he's done with that. But the report is not complete yet. We have all of the reports from the 7 committees. We're putting them together into a final package. We hope that within the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to put out the final report. That report will go to council for review and acceptance. And then at that meeting, the recommendations will be dispersed to the standing committees of City Council. So we're hopeful that the recommendations that would be applicable to this committee, public safety, that they'll be distributed that way. Once they go from the standing committees, they'll go to the different departments for implementation, to either create or revise policy or create programming that correlate with those recommendations, and then go back to council that way. So we're really hopeful within the next couple of weeks that we'll be wrapping up this process so that we can move into the implementation phase of moving forward with the recommendations that have come from the special commission. So that's pretty much the update. I can answer any questions that any of you have, either now or offline, regarding the process and where we are with those recommendations.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Johnson? And again, you said that process, Ms. Johnson, is in the next couple of weeks, you anticipate having compiled the reports from the 7 subcommittees and then submitting those to public safety, through public safety to city council?
Well, it will go to council first for
Okay.
review and acceptance, and then they will distribute it to the standing committees from city council.
Thank you. Any questions or information sharing regarding the work of the commission? And maybe after that time, we have 3 subcommittees, as you're well aware as well. We've got the policy, communications, and traffic stop subcommittees. And we may need to call on you to participate in one of those, possibly in the interim prior to our August meeting. So thank you so very much for lending yourself, as always, to join us and to help us out with information.
Thank you for having me.
Certainly, certainly. Now we move to our subcommittee reports. I know we have each council member should have received information from the subcommittee chairman. Subcommittee chairman, as I call on you, would you please report your actions completed, actions pending, and next steps? Not necessarily having to read your minutes to us, but if you would report your actions completed, actions pending, and next steps, and meaning next steps you plan to take between now and the next Cpac meeting, which will be August the 5th. And if there are any recommendations or any motions that need to be acted on by the council in totality, please bring those up at this time as well. With that said, Communication Subcommittee, our Vice Chairman for the council is the Chairman for the Communication Subcommittee, Mr. Paul Tamburino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I submitted my report with actions completed, so I believe all the members have that in their possession in advance. So what I would ask is, are any questions about what we addressed in our report from anybody? Camden, is your hand up for me or for something else?
I think it's just still up from when we approved the minutes.
Oh,
Paul.
okay.
It
No
hasn't
worries.
gone away.
Okay, so basically the gist of it is we talked about some pending items, communication-wise, as far as how do we communicate with the community and different things we should take. Just some furtherance of discussions we've already had. So again, those are in my report. We did get a chance to meet with Mr. Francis. He works with he's one of the public information officers for the department. We got some good information from him as well and some items to follow up. What I would say to you, Madam Chair, is we are coming out of this, we're bringing 3 recommendations to the Cpac. And so if you'd like to hear those now, I'll bring those to your attention.
Yes, please.
Okay, so the first request that we have coming out of our subcommittee is a request for each Cpac member to give a preferred email address. So as everybody understands the background on that, we were looking into possibly giving each one of our council members an email from the city or something, so you have more of an official channel for communications rather than using your own personal email. I know some people have a problem with that. After going through that review with the department's attorney and public information officer, we decided that at this point, the best option is for each member to provide us their own preferred email address. If you don't want to give your personal email, our recommendation is you can go onto Gmail or one of the free email services and create one that may be exclusive to this. So that's our first recommendation, Madam Chair.
Yes, you've heard the recommendation. It comes from committee. So now, Ms. Tamburino, are you making that as a motion since it was decided on at the committee to come before Cpac?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so since it comes from the communication subcommittee, it needs no second. The committee is requesting that each Cpac member create or provide an email address that can be listed on the city's website to improve communications with the community. Is there any discussion? So are we ready for vote? Oh, Deputy Chief Thompson?
Can I be the clearinghouse for that? Will you guys send those to me so we can have like a master list so that, you know, we can just double and triple check that? Or is that something that the subcommittee will take responsibility for?
I believe the subcommittee would take responsibility just because it's ours. And then once we have that, we'll communicate it out as a contact list.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right, because we'll need to provide that also, I'm sure, to Ms. Whitaker, to Bethany, for us so that we can work with you, Deputy Chief Thompson, in getting it published to where it needs to be. And Mr. Francis. Thank you. Any other questions regarding the motion? And are we wanting, if this motion is carried through, just a point of clarification, the requested time frame is to have it by which time frame?
I would say by next Friday, please.
Okay. Okay.
And what I would offer to anybody, if we do pass this, for anybody who's unsure how to set up a free email or they want assistance, you know, I'll offer my help with that if you need it.
Any further questions on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of each member creating an email address or providing their a personal email address as so we can improve communication, please raise your hand or show thumbs up. Bethany, are you looking? I'm looking. Looks like that's everyone that I can see.
The only one I don't see is Camden.
Camden, which way are you voting? Would you use the hands raised feature if you don't want to turn your video on? Cam, are you there? Okay, he's still muted. He may.
We can put him down as, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Yep, got him.
Okay, good deal. Any opposition? Raise your hand. Any abstentions? I think that was all of us voting that can't vote, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Bethany, if you wouldn't mind, please, would you send an email to the entire council to just state that we are to provide our email address that we would like to have listed publicly on the City of Charleston's webpage?
Yes, ma'am.
To Paul Tamburino by next Friday, which is June 11th?
Correct.
Okay.
Will do.
Good. Thank you. Councilman Tamburino, next recommendation.
Okay. This second, an auxiliary to that is we're recommending a creation of a generic email address that can be created, you know, basically Charleston Police Advisory, whatever the naming structure is, a singular email address that can be provided to citizens or on any media coordination. And with that email, it would then be forwarded. So I would have the forwarding feature set up so that if a citizen emails that email address, the email that you all are providing for us for your preferred email, each of you would get a copy of that email so that we're all kept on the same communication track. The one thing I will caution everybody when that happens is if you do click on reply, it's coming from the email address you're accessing it from. So the reply would not come from Cpac at, whatever we create it to be. So the motion is to create a unified Cpac email that can be forwarded automatically to each Cpac member. This email would be distributed to media and the public. There's my motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. The second motion from the Communications Subcommittee comes from committee needs no second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the motion of the creation of a centralized email address that would be managed and sent to each person, please raise your hand. Thumbs up, or use your hand raise feature. Is Cam doing something?
Cam is.
Okay.
Yep.
Councilman Ezell? Okay, thank you. That's unanimous, it appears.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'll get with you offline to come up with a name.
Good.
Okay. And
Thank
then
you.
lastly, we've got the subcommittee, when we met with the public information officer, and a lot of what we do, a lot of what we're trying to do is outreach to get our message out of who we are, what we do, and what we're about, as well as, being the kind of the representatives of the community and what we're doing. A lot of that's dealing with the media. And so the communications subcommittee was put in place to talk about communications issues resulting from the audit. But what we were not empowered to do, so we're not going to take it on ourselves, is to be the media coordinator, to go out there and proactively approach and make those connections and do different things. So our recommendation is we make a motion from the subcommittee for the Cpac to create the role of a Cpac media coordinator, with the Cpac chairperson the appointing authority of this role. So it would not be necessarily a member of the communications subcommittee. This would be a role, whether it's a member of this council or even an independent person, but that person would be a media coordinator. The other thing important I want to say is that person is not the spokesperson. This is somebody who just helps coordinate those connections and makes different connections. Our chair of Cpac is our spokesperson.
Council, you've heard the third motion from the Communications Subcommittee, comes from committee needs no second. Any discussion? One question, Councilman Tamburino, that social media coordinator, is that someone that would be on the council, or is that someone that would be on the staff with Mr. Francis?
Okay, so just one correction, it would be a Cpac media coordinator, not just social media. So, this person would also be making the connection to, news crew, newspapers, and making those and just consolidating. It's my intent that be left up to the chairperson, just for whatever reason. So we have, to me, it doesn't necessarily have to be a council member. That would be whoever the Cpac chair's discretion would be.
I asked that question because of accessibility to resources, people resources.
Right. I mean, you know best. So, I mean, it makes sense for it to be a council member, but I didn't want to put in the motion when we were constrained by that either.
Okay.
Max has his hand up.
Oop.
Max had his hand up.
Oh, Max. Councilman Milligan.
I just wanted to inquire, before the pandemic began and everything became virtual, we had a in-person meeting at Burke High School, and I don't know how many media we had present at that time, but I was just wondering who coordinated that. Was that to the department, or was that Reverend Middleton at the time? Who set up, like, who traditionally has this responsibility? Because I like the motion, but I just want to know, like, who currently, assuming that we're going back to in-person meetings soon, who would coordinate that?
I can answer that just as how it works for city council and everything. I don't know if Reverend Middleton would have reached out to the news, but I know for like most of the news media just kind of looks at our meeting notice for the week. And if there's a meeting that they want to attend, then they attend that meeting. They just kind of show up. I know that's how it works for city council, for all of our like regular committee meetings, if there's an important thing on the agenda that they need to be there for, then they'll just kind of show up. I know I don't normally see emails from them that say that they're going to be in attendance. I don't know if the police department has an answer to that.
So the idea is that we proactively, as a council, through this person, reach out to more news media to get them involved in the meetings. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think what it is the whole idea would be that we want to get the message out, number one, that we exist, and provide them an opportunity proactively, not just to attend our meetings, but when incidents happen in the community. I mean, we meet every 2 or 3 months, but when incidents happen in the community, it's them having a point of contact of saying, okay, we want to get your opinion, and having somebody who's centrally gathering all those contact names. So if we want to proactively send our message out, or if we want to be contacted, we have that consolidated, and then we can direct them, that person can direct them to the chair. But it's having a central point of contact without them always having to reach out on the administrative stuff to the chairperson who's got other responsibilities.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the motion? All those in favor of the establishment of a social media, you said not social,
No,
a Cpac media coordinator,
correct.
please raise your hand.
We've got everyone, Twan.
That's everybody. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I won't call for opposition and abstention since everybody voted. Thank you. Vice Chairman Tamburino, did you want to make mention of any of the other items that you had listed as reminders for members to read, or you're good?
One of the things that we did, just I would say, is we, I was invited to attend the traffic stop subcommittee, which I think is really important, cross-pollination of our subcommittees, to talk with them about some of their communication issues. So I think that was a good way for both of the committees to get a little overview of what each other does. So there was that. I will say that, as part of my role here, I did get to do a police ride along already. So that was a lot of fun. Well, actually, what the truth is, it was actually very boring, which is the kind of night you want to have. So I do encourage everybody to do it. I did see it go on one call that, I even gave the feedback to the chief. It was a very good call in how the officers reacted. So for as far as the communications subcommittee, I think that's, I'll address the other things later if you call on me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to the Policy and Procedure Subcommittee. Councilmember Milliken.
Hi, everybody. I hope everyone had a good Memorial Day weekend. We were very productive in our last Policy and Procedures Subcommittee meeting. DC Walker brought up earlier at the start of the meeting that there's a new chain of command that's being put in place. And I believe Sergeant DeBose gave a presentation on this at our policy meeting. And I attached both the old and the new to my report that I emailed out to everyone. So let me know if you guys didn't receive that, because that's going to encompass more of the details about our actions. So please review that if you haven't already. Captain Curtella reported out that the Professional Standards Office report is going to be ready by our August meeting. So that should definitely be an agenda item for our August meeting. And then in addition to that, we've got 5 motions pending approval from the full council. So Twan, for the sake of time, should I read them each in their entirety one by one?
Yes, I think that would probably be best. And you could do it as a motion coming from the Policy Subcommittee.
Yes, ma'am.
Good, thank you.
So our first one that was brought to us by Councilmember Grant from James Island was regarding the complaint process. We had a lot of discussion centered around the presence of a easy to find, easy to locate document on the city website or the department's website about how to file a complaint. And since Captain Curtella has kind of expanded more upon that discussion, there is in fact a document that tells citizens how to file a complaint and what the complaint process looks like. But with regard to this motion, the point that each of the council members expressed on the subcommittee is that it really just be easier to find, easier to locate on the website. So I'll just read from my report the complaint process. The subcommittee voted regarding the citizen complaint process. Subcommittee member Grant noted that some departments in America have a public document outlining how citizens can file a complaint to facilitate the complaint process, as well as increase transparency. We've been since informed that the CPD does in fact have a similar document, but it's not prevalent on the city's website. And the subcommittee advised that the website needs to be easier to navigate. The following recommendation is as follows. Many police departments have developed a written process that specifically outlines the citizen complaints process. The process is made available or distributed as a guide for citizens to understand how to engage the complaint process. In an effort to provide accessibility for community members, it is recommended that CPD develops a formal written citizen complaint process that could be included in General Order Number 5 as a written directive and General Order Number 10 as a complaint procedural item. This guide should include, this guide could include the department's objective for the policy, who may make a complaint, when should a complaint be filed, how to file a complaint, a mediation process, who investigates a complaint, the assigned findings of a complaint, outline of the disciplinary process, how is the disposition of complainant provided, how is the disposition of the complaint provided to the complainant. So that was the first motion that.
Okay, let's take that one. So in short, then the motion is that the police department develop a formal written citizens complaint process that would be included in General Orders Number 5 and 10, as well as made available and distributed as a guide for citizens to understand how to engage the complaint process?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Comes from Policy Subcommittee, needs no second discussion?
Paul has his hand up, Twan.
Okay.
Yeah, just a question. So this motion is just a recommendation on behalf of the Cpac in general, because obviously we can't do any of that. So we want this to be a formal recommendation coming from the Cpac, rather than that was a discussion that was had, with these, with the department's personnel present, you need it to come from Cpac.
Correct, because the department is in the process of reviewing policies. And Captain Quintel, I think Councilmember Milligan stated at the very beginning of his talk that Captain Quintella was explaining the policy review that the department is currently undertaking. And they have a schedule for different policies to be reviewed over the next 3 years. And so this is to officially send the comment from Cpac to the department to include in their review, in hopes that it will be incorporated in some way to make better the communications of the policies and the understanding of the policies.
And I also just wanted to comment, there was an indication that the department would make that specific document easier to locate on the website. So part of that is since resolved, or will be resolved soon. Captain Curtella has his hand up, I believe.
Thank
Captain
you.
Quintella?
Thank you. After our last policy subcommittee meeting, I believe I sent you that document the Friday after. I'm not sure if you had a chance to review it. And like I said, the document exists. It's just, quote, hidden within our website. So we are working with city IT on it to make it more accessible, just to let everyone know.
Thank you, Captain Quintella. Any other questions or additional comments before we complete the vote? Okay. All those in favor of the said motion, please raise your hand or use your raise hand feature. Okay. Looks like everyone, how about Cam? Emily's got her. Okay.
Yep, we've got him.
Okay, thank you. I won't ask for opposition or abstention since everyone has voted in favor. Thank you. Next motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman-
The next motion that we've got has to do with the policy review schedule, as well as just how many policies are being reviewed at a time, and kind of the policy and procedure subcommittee's role within that. We were informed at our last meeting by Captain Gertel that there are currently 57 policies being reviewed in 2021, with 19 of them being in progress. And there are 5 subcommittee members on the policy and procedures subcommittee. So what we were really discussing was the possibility that other council members outside of the policy subcommittee could also partake in some of the policy discussion and review. More specifically, if they are more applicable to, say the communications subcommittee or the traffic stop committee, because they pertain to a policy that has to do with those areas. So I'll just read from, again, the report I sent out via email. I said we will discuss the allocation of the policies during the June 3rd meeting, but I don't mean specifically, because I'm assuming most council members haven't had the chance to review the schedule just yet. But the subcommittee decided that we felt as though certain policies would be better addressed by other subcommittees, not to mention the amount of review for those 57 that I mentioned, or simply too much for one subcommittee to do our due diligence and really spend time looking at the important areas. So I attached the review schedule and that report for the council to review in light of this discussion. So I believe the motion in all specificity is really just for the other council members to be able to partake in the policy review. Yeah, Mr. I didn't know if that hand was for me, Chairwoman Fielding, or for you.
Yeah, I mean, Madam
Councilman
Chair,
Harris, your hand is up.
yeah, I just, as I recall, Max, what we discussed was that we would, our subcommittee would look at the 52, make a request or recommendation for the priority, and then turn to the other council members and ask them perhaps to participate in review of some of those items. So as I understand, what we discussed was us doing a little bit more work, looking at it, then recommending priorities to the broader council, and then asking council members to weigh in and make comment on those priority items that they might be interested in.
Considering that statement, thank you, Councilman Harris. Council members, what is your feeling on the policy subcommittee determining out of the, I think it's the 19 of them that are being looked at now. So the policy subcommittee reconvening to determine what help traffic stop subcommittee or communications subcommittee can do with those policies, and send those policies to those chairmen of those 2 subcommittees to disperse to their members. I do believe we have some council members who are not on a subcommittee. So I'll take on the responsibility to go through with Ms. Whitaker to see who's not on a subcommittee, and call those people who are not on the subcommittee to see which one they would like to work on, to be able to help out with the review of the policies. So council members, do you agree that that's a fair move, that we send it back to policy subcommittee? You redefine which policies need to go to either traffic stop. You'd like traffic stop to take a look at and get the comments back to you by a said deadline, a firm deadline, as well as to communications. Would that work to help? So we won't lose 2 months? Okay, thanks, Cam. Councilman Shield has it. I think he's thumbs up for agreeing.
We have a couple of hands up,
Okay,
Mr. Harris and Mr. Tamburino and Max
Oh.
as well.
okay. Let's go, Councilman Milligan first.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I apologize if there was any confusion about that. I really just wanted, I didn't know if we had to vote as a full council on them being allocated, so that's why I brought it
Gotcha.
in that format. Yes.
I understand, thank you. Councilman Tamburino?
When I originally read that, I think what they were doing is they were, I guess, in some ways looking for volunteers to help take on some of the policies since there's too many for them to handle. If that's the case, I think, I mean, we can volunteer to assist, not necessarily join the committee as a whole, if that's an option too.
Councilman Harris, thank you. Councilman Harris?
No, I had no additional comment.
Okay, okay.
And Twan, I will get with you, but I was just looking at the list and I think all of the people that aren't on a subcommittee right now are those that we need to go back and look at. There are people that have not been attending Cpac meetings and several meetings, as well as we'll have to figure out what to do with our high school students.
Understand.
And see if we can get them onto a subcommittee.
Okay, okay.
For the record, Max, I'll volunteer if you need assistance, just with the policy review, not to join the subcommittee, but if you need individual members to help out with the workload, I'll volunteer.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yes, I will too, as I stated when I attended the policy subcommittee meeting. Any others would like to volunteer at this point?
I will.
That was Councilman Lasser.
Yeah.
Max, one recommendation I would have for those of us that are not part of your subcommittee, so we've not been through the whole routine, is I would just recommend that you take your volunteers and maybe have a little workshop for us on what's expected, what you need us to do, and outcome and things like that. So, it's not just us reviewing the policy and not knowing what you want from us.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I have a question.
And those who are listening through YouTube, if they're interested in weighing in on any of the policies, the policies are publicly accessible. So if they have any comments they want to send in to Cpac for review, prior to us having our email address established, Bethany, would they be able to email to the same email address that they would have to sign up to speak tonight?
So the way that works is we don't post up the link for public comment until the week before the
Until
meeting.
the week before.
So I would say, and if it's before that time period, probably reach out to somebody in the police department, whether that's DC Thompson, DC Walker. I mean, anybody really, I'm not sure.
Gotcha, yeah, because in the interim, we don't have our address, since we just approve of having email addresses sent to Paul by next Friday. Might not be up.
Captain Catella has his hand up.
Okay. Captain Catella?
If the public has any questions about policies, they could just email me directly and I could help them to either find one that they're looking for or answer any questions they have. I'd probably be your best point of contact for that.
Great, and then you, Captain Catella, if you get any interest, you could please send me an email to let me know so I can notify Cpac members, or you can send an email directly to us as you did a few days ago.
Absolutely.
Just so that we would know that the citizens are showing interest and having concerns about the policies as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you. And would you please state your email address for those who might be listening?
Sure. It's CRETELLAA@charleston-sc.gov.
Thank you, sir.
And we also have, if someone can't remember that, we have the Speak to CPD email address that's on our website. And those go straight to Wendy and she can forward those on as well.
Okay, good deal. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Okay, I'm looking, we're at 6:30. You have 3 more, right? So Councilman Milligan, I know you were reading straight from what you emailed to us. You can go straight to the motion itself. And then we can ask any questions that we have at that time. I think those were the heavy ones that you had, though, from what I read.
Yes, ma'am. The next three are going to be quick. My third one pertains to General Order 5. It includes a written directive system. We voted to recommend that CPD add language to section 5.5, issuing authority to include Cpac as, quote, authorized to propose new or updated general order or suggest to purge general order and to authorize a 30-day review and comment period for Cpac while proposed general order changes are under review by the Accreditation Office, the Office of the City Attorney, and the Human Resources Coordinator. And I did want to say, sorry, end quote, I did want to say that we voted on that unanimously, hoping to address the CNA audit's finding of a lack of clarity in the role of Cpac as a whole.
Comes from committee, needs no second. Any discussion? Any questions on the issue? Okay, all those in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. Okay, got it. That looks like that's everybody, right, Bethany?
Yep, we've got everyone.
Good deal. Thank you. I won't ask for abstentions or opposition. Thank you. Motion passes. Councilman Milligan?
Yes, ma'am. The fourth one pertains to General Order number 10, Internal Affairs. The subcommittee voted to recommend that the language contained on pages 5 and 6 of our Cpac guidelines, Citizen Police Advisory Council action and tasks pertaining to transparency on matters concerning citizen complaints be incorporated into General Order 10, and that the general public be made aware of this provision of the Cpac guidelines. I attached a copy of the Cpac guidelines to my report if anyone wanted to review that.
You did, and I looked at my hard copy. Any questions? You heard the motion from subcommittee, needs no second. All those in favor of the motion? Okay, I think that's everybody again.
Yep.
No opposition, no need to ask for opposition or abstentions. Motion passes. Now, also in that motion, the subcommittee was asking me to request, as chairman, to request the documents and statistical data on the citizens' complaints pertaining to the May 30th and 31st riot as described in the after action report, and to conduct a review as provided in the Cpac guidelines.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that was the fifth motion I was about to bring. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That is the fifth motion from the policy subcommittee. Needs no second. All those in favor of authorizing the chairman of Cpac to request those documents and statistical data on citizens' complaints pertaining to the May 30th and 31st riot as described in the after action report, and to conduct a review as provided in the Cpac guidelines, please raise your hand if you're in favor. Okay, Cam and Council Member Broom. Emily, okay. That's everyone, so no need to ask for opposition or abstentions. The motion passes. So Chief Reynolds, I know you're on there, sir. Would you like me to email you that request? Because I know you're driving. Want me to email you the request to provide okay, I'll send you an email following this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Member Milligan. Any other comments you need to provide before we move to the traffic stop committee?
Yes, ma'am. I just have one more. There was I believe Mr. Harris inquired at our last meeting if City Council's already addressed this, but Mr. Harris did ask Captain Gertel if the proposed ordinance establishing a youth curfew for the Central Business District would result in changes to General Order 40. And Chairwoman Fielding, I believe you requested that this be deferred until the June 3rd hearing. But like I said, I believe the city already voted, so I don't know if it pertains to us anymore.
If I remember right, and someone from the police department can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe city council voted or deferred that item. They either deferred it or they just decided that they were going to take it off city council floor.
They took it off completely. It's done.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
It was initially going to be deferred, but it was taken off completely.
Okay.
That's what I remember. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, I thought I saw that on the news too, that they reported that. Thank you, Chairman Milligan. Traffic stop, Councilman Lysak.
Yes, ma'am. First off, I want to thank Paul with the communications for being with us and sharing with us some really good input. We have some pending issues with getting face-to-face meetings with the Team 4 sergeants, but that's no fault of theirs. With all of the activity recently in the city, it's in the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's, can't expect them to sit down and spend a little time. But I was been told that Sergeant Kyle Ryan has said that, we will be getting together to discuss Team 4. And that's West Ashley. That's what we were looking at. So we hope to get that corrected relatively soon. I have developed a draft paragraph to use to introduce the traffic stop committee. And I am in the process of kind of cleaning it up a little bit, and I will be sending it to the CPD PIO, Mr. Francis, to have him look at it and, add, delete, whatever we need, because we felt that we needed to have some type of bouncing ball when we go to talk to these groups, because as all of you well know, one of my main objectives is to get in front of people and talk about Cpac, not all the rules and regulations, but what it's all about, starting with a brief phrase that it is the eyes and ears of the citizens of Charleston County, city of Charleston, excuse me. So that's going to be taken care of. And then I did have a coffee meeting with the executive director of the HOA for Shadow Moss, and I started there because of the volume of residents in that community. I didn't give him any information, written information, but I did express and solicit his support. They do have certain subcommittees, and they do within their infrastructure. They also have other, which I didn't know, but they also have other control on some of the other HOAs around the city. So I left it with, we would get back together, and at that time, hopefully one of the other gentlemen on the committee will be able to join me, and I'll have the paragraph back from Mr. Francis, and we can discuss with them, having the meetings. We're not looking for grandstand. We're looking for maybe 8, 10, 12, 15, not more than 20 people at a time, not more than about 90 minutes of meeting time, because they're going to have to dedicate their meeting to that. So didn't want to infringe on that. The development of the ride-alongs is exciting for us because all of us have been on it, and we've been wanting that for some time. It is, and I would strongly urge everybody to do it as often as they'll let you do it, because as Paul said, you do have those dry spells where nothing's going on, but all in all, the experience of a ride-along will enhance your awareness of Cpac. I can guarantee you that. You got my report, so I'm not going to go into that. But I have to say that probably next week, no later than the week after, I will be talking with Mayor Tecklenburg I just got back from the South Carolina American Legion State Convention in Columbia, and I have been appointed to the National Executive Committee of the American Legion. They don't meet in Charleston, okay? They don't meet in South Carolina. I'll be making several trips to Indianapolis as well as Washington, D.C. I'm excited about the new challenge, but at the same time, as much as I do not want to leave Cpac, because I was one of the original oars in the water, I don't know that I have the time, because I also serve on the National Security Commission for the American Legion, and they just sent me 214 resolutions to review. Yeah. And so my plate's getting a little bit full, and if I tell you my cup's running over, that would be an understatement. But I will say this now to all of you, I'm sure the mayor is not going to be excited about me having to leave, but I will still support you in every way that I can as a citizen. And I think the job that we're doing and what we're trying to achieve is not insurmountable. I think it's something that we can do. And I think the citizens of Charleston will be better off once we get our venue on track and get things done. So thank you.
Thank you and congratulations. If you are going to have to leave us, I tell you, you have been a strong supporter, constant member, very involved, as I know you are with even your other pursuits, especially the American Legion. As you know, you and I have had many conversations.
Yeah.
So I do sincerely appreciate all that you are still continuing to do, though, with this council. And I'm sure we all understand having our cups running over and starting to have to drink from the saucer because the cup is overflown. So we fully understand that. But please keep us posted on what's going on, as I know you will. I had one question, because you did allow me to, and thank you again for letting me attend your subcommittee meeting. You did talk, I think, was it Captain McFadden was present at the meeting? Am I elevating Christy McFadden? That's correct, Deputy Chief Thompson?
Yes, ma'am. She was the
Yeah, she was there at the meeting, and I know you talked about having an actual traffic stop presentation that would be able to be shared by council members as we would attend our neighborhood meetings, civic groups, to be able to get the information out on what's the proper way to handle a traffic stop, what to expect and what your actions should be. So is that presentation, is that what you're talking about, that you would be able to share at the various HOAs?
I apologize that I didn't really go into detail on it, because
okay.
I look at it as a development state. Once Mr. Francis is okay with our opening statement of traffic stop with Cpac, then there's going to be a small packet of information, and packet is a very voluminous sounding word, but I'm not talking about more than just a couple of sheets to talk about procedures that the police department will be taking and the procedures that are required of the individual who's being stopped and so forth. I mean, stuff that is elementary to most of us, but unfortunately, quite frankly, when you look at the large amount of traffic situations going on, especially with the crowds and people and all this kind of stuff, we're not going to give out a bunch of critical information, but I will certainly get Deputy Chief Thompson's input on it before we release it. But basically, it's going to cover the do's and don'ts. If you run a stop sign, that kind of stuff, and hands on the wheel. Don't try to get out of the car. And all the different little idiosyncrasies that you go through it. But then there'll also be some statistical information regarding certain things. I will say this as a sidebar. My name has come up within the Shadow Moss community and in several areas, and I have received, and I shared one with Chief Thompson about the speeding on Bees Ferry Road. And as soon as the city was able to have it patrolled a little bit more than what was normal, it has slowed down some. And some of the ladies have wrote me back and thanked me. And I said, no, you don't need to. I'm just the messenger. You need to thank the city police department because they make it happen. But yeah, there is a little packet, Dwayne, that's going to go with it so that we can give it to students in the high. It's going to be a generic students in the high schools, garden clubs, card groups. I mean, whatever we happen to be involved in. And I will tell you this, the first test run on it, if I get the blessings, will be in District 2 of the American Legion, where I will be able to reach out to over 1,000 people who live in that area that we have.
I see too, Councilman Lycett, Councilman Ezell has his hand up.
Joe, I'm so happy to hear you say about providing that information. I so hope that we can incorporate the same type of thing in public service announcements by way of television.
Yeah.
Not only for the education of the drivers and passengers, but also to continually reinforce the proper behavior of police officers. And if you see a model police officer, a model driver, a model passenger, and in addition to that, persons that are in the vicinity driving other vehicles, that can be a strong component of what you're trying to do.
Thank you, Melvin. One of the things too is which will be in the packet as well as in the face-to-face presentations that the subcommittee will be making is, if it's at all possible, we will have a member of CPD with us. So you'll not only see a citizen standing talking about traffic stop, but we will have a Charleston Police Department officer with us who can share some insight and show the working relationship. As we all know, there are areas within the city where they don't talk to police officers. They don't have anything to do with them. So we need to take the Band-Aid off of that and surgically correct that situation. But yeah, thank you.
Keep in mind that the people you'll be talking with are those that have agreed to be there and are receptive to listening to what you have to say. The other 99% are sitting on their butts at home watching television, and they can learn from a visual presentation as well.
Maybe I should take a target shot and say, look, when you get home, call your neighbor and call your sons and daughters and brief them on this. But I'm hoping to hand that.
You were going to have a hard copy presentation though, right? That would be able to be uploaded to a website and shown.
Yeah. So where we will get, for example, one of the garden clubs in Shadow Moss, where we would get maybe 1 or 2 members there, they may have 10 or 12 members. And I'm hoping to be able, at no cost to the city, be able to present them with 15 or 20 copies of the handout and use that to distribute the information and, within the community. And that would be something that would be citywide, once I get everything in place, then I will request the necessary approval, so that it can be put on the website and accessed, via a computer.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I would just add that, a big part of that subcommittee was education to the public, like Joe's talking about. And, we've really challenged the subcommittee and they've challenged us because that's something that we felt was very important at the beginning. So we'll continue with that. And it goes into our Citizens Academy, the ride-alongs, everything, just, having those interactions with the public and just education. So everybody knows what we're all about. So moving forward, but thank you, Joe. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. Now we're to updates. The audit mid-year report, harbor view, road traffic concerns, community engagement, and of course, Chief's updates. For the audit mid-year report, Sabra, you're going to do that? Wendy, you'll do that one?
Yeah, I got that. So basically, the very slow process of getting reviews on the 1-year audit report is about done. We sent it to you, got some feedback, sent it to some other community groups, got some feedback, and then we sent it to CNA and got some advice and feedback from CNA. At this point, what we're going to do is take all of that feedback and all of those suggestions and roll that into a mid-year report because we're approaching the middle of the year and it's a good time to give another status update on those. And so we wanted to take the CNA feedback in light of the recent reorganization of the department, disseminate that to all of the responsible commanders, some of whom have been shifted into new responsibilities, and give them a chance to look over that feedback, and if they have any concerns, go back to CNA and discuss it with them. And so once we have all of that, we'll publish the 1-year audit report and the feedback on the website, and then get cooking on the mid-year update. That hopefully will be done and ready to send out by the end of July.
And council members, I did prepare a statement, well, it's a little bit longer than a statement, that I'm going to send out to all of you. I need to actually, I've been remiss, I need to actually send that out to you today so that you can read it. I did share it with Wendy because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss any of the things. I went back through our minutes from all of our meetings. And so I will send that to you and ask that you please give immediate attention to it and respond back in short order. I'll be asking that you please respond back by Monday. And so I can say to Wendy that we came up with is sufficient and that you all approve of it. If I don't hear back from you, I'll take it as silence is golden. It means it's consent. Else, please send any additional comments you'd like to send by Monday. And I will email that to you as soon as we end our meeting here tonight. Thank you, Ms. Diver. Appreciate it. Who are you going to do the Harborview? Will you be doing the Harborview road traffic concern? Remember, we had two citizens who joined us at the last meeting and expressed some concern about traffic issues around Harborview School.
That'll be Captain Crutella.
Okay, Captain Crutella?
Yes, ma'am. So an
Yes,
update
sir.
on their concerns
Yes, sir.
is we have worked with them for the last month. We've sent our SROs out there to document what we observed single-handedly and firsthand on that. We went back with the school district and they are working on a plan in place to actually fix it. School's coming out for the rest of the year, which is a good sign. We have met with both of our complainants and they are satisfied with the resolution. It's going to take a little bit of time though, but it is a work in progress.
So will something be publicly stated about it, or it'll just be that the residents over there will be able to see? Will you correspond? Will there be something that's sent to Councilwoman Jackson? Because you remember she was in attendance at our meeting as well.
Right. So it's going to probably come from the school district itself because
Okay.
they're making some changes to the way that they're going to be doing parking, redoing the parking lot in different structures so that we don't really have a whole lot of power over. But there is a plan in place and they have been in communication with the neighbors in that area as well.
Okay, thank you so very much. Any questions for Captain Crutella, council members? Any additional comments?
Yeah. Does the police department do traffic analysis on some of these roadways? By that, I mean, I'm very concerned about the area from the intersection of Bees Ferry Road and Highway 61, where you're heading out of the city going all the way to Somerville, which goes into another county. But when they make a turn at junction 165 towards Charleston, there is nothing to slow down the traffic until they get to the traffic light at Bees Ferry. And there's a school in there. And there's a lot of cars that end up swerving and blowing horns and everything else. There is a flashing light at Murfield, but I think that's just kind of a guiding light for some of these people because I'm very concerned about that area, and I've talked to Councilman Griffin about investigating that and having some type of information. I just wanted, Captain Cortella, is that something you all do, or Deputy Chief Dustin Thompson? You can tell me, maybe, I don't know. But we need to start looking at some of these straightaways that we got. I mean, I'm sorry, but I just feel that there is no need to have, that's almost 10, 12 miles of nothing to stop the speed of the traffic except the volume. And usually if one car is racing along, everybody falls in right behind them. And when I say racing along, I'm going to guess, and I'm not a traffic expert, but I'm going to guess some of these cars are going in excess of 70 miles an hour, because they passed me at that intersection just like a jet. So I'm just curious, just ask.
Yep. Joe, so you or anybody in the public, I would just say if you could send me a short email, that'll go to our traffic safety committee that's involved in traffic and transportation. We're certainly involved with that, but normally that'll come from traffic or transportation or the DOT. I mean, they've done that on King Street. They've done that in some of the different areas, but we can certainly request it. It'll go to a committee. They'll put a speed trailer and some other whatever else they need out there, and then make the recommendations. But that's certainly something that this council or anybody listening can do. They can send that over to anybody in the police department or anybody in the city, and we'll get it forwarded to the right people.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on traffic concerns? Thank you, Captain Cortella. Community engagement. Would that be Deputy Chief Thompson?
Yep, I'll take care of that. So I'm just going to run down some of the highlights that we've had in the last 2 months. I'll tell you the last one, or the last two that I'll talk about are what we're most excited about. We are continuing, as you guys have heard me each meeting, that engagement with the youth. Those 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds are our focus. So a lot of this is those positive interaction with the youth. We're doing our pickup basketball game the first Saturday of every month. That's where we just set a date and time and a court, and whatever children or adults show up, we're there to interact and play some basketball. That's been very well attended. Obviously, you guys know about our Citizens Academy. We just completed the one in the spring, and we talked about that earlier for you guys in the fall. We're continuing with our youth soccer. We have done some outreach for some drug overdose cases. There's been a lot of talk involving the community outreach division, going out with counselors as a follow-up in some of these drug overdose cases. We've continued with our pharmacy down at Mall Park. That's giving out the fresh vegetables. Again, some more sports things that I won't go all the way into. We have continued with our Ask a Cop Anything that I think it was a recommendation from this group 1 or 2 years ago, but these are our pop-up events where we just set up our tents, or we set up our basketball goal, or whatever we're doing, and we're there with no agenda, with no set schedule. And they listed back, we had 30 interactions over at Doshers earlier in the year. We're still doing our food distributions. We've got several of those that we participate in. We pretty much don't say no to anything. If we're invited or we hear about it, we want to be involved. We even went up to Columbia and we're involved in an event up there. So it's not just here locally, it's all over the state. Another Ask a Cop Anything, another 25 positive interactions at the Piggly Wiggly. So the two things that we're really excited about is they were in the local news, but our two centers. So the one over in Gadsden Green that we're calling the Gathering Center, and then over at Robert Mills Manor off Bufane Street, we're calling that the Multi-Purpose Learning Center. Both of these locations, in the media, they were reported as substations, although these are places for officers to go if they need to get out for the weather or complete a report or something like that. Obviously, it'll be open to our officers, our professional staff, the rec department, but these are centers for mentoring. City councilmen, several councilmen have been very heavily involved in those. We're going to have some grand openings later on in the summer that we'll announce to everybody. Certainly, you guys will get that information if you want to attend. But these centers are set up with books and computers and really, as a welcoming center so that we can, get on track with mentoring the youth and really make it a positive impact on their lives. Now, I'll say the youth, and y'all always hear me say that, but we did, College of Charleston did come in with the assistance of Wendy. They came in and did some surveys over in Gadsden Green of actually what they wanted to see from these centers. And I'm pretty sure I reported back to you guys earlier in the year that, there are some adult services that these communities need and want. So we've taken those into consideration with these two centers. And we've adjusted the officer schedules so that we can make sure that these are open during the times that we need them. And we're really excited about these centers. I don't just say that because they're community centers, but we really think that their purpose is they're going to serve a purpose in both of these two housing authority areas. So that's all I have to report out.
Thank you. I was making good notes on that. Any questions about community engagement? The Deputy Chief Thompson shared with us. No, Deputy Chief Thompson, are these listed on the city's webpage?
Not yet, because we want to wait till they're to the grand openings. But they are in the Gadsden Green community right here behind the police department and then over at Robert Mills. But we'll have all that information up there. But we certainly want to make sure that, one, that they're what they should be before we open them up. And, we've got to make sure they're, we've got, I can go on and on, but furniture and books and computers, and we're almost there. I talked to Lieutenant Mitchell, who took over for Lieutenant Murray some time ago with community outreach. She's not on the call today, but she's assured all of us, and there's been some walkthroughs with City Council that these centers are open again for the right reasons, with a purpose, and not just another place for a substation. They're not substations. They are community centers, and that's what we want them to be.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from anyone else? Okay. Chief Reynolds, your update, sir? Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, he's still there. I think Chief is, there he goes. Hello there.
Hey, I'm sorry, I may have missed you were a little garbled for a second.
Oh, no, you're good. We're just getting to you on the agenda for your update, sir.
Okay, can you just let me know which ones kind of cue me up?
We've already done the audit, the mid-year report, and we talked about the Harborview Road traffic concerns, the community engagement. I do know that, Paul, maybe you could share, and Chief can hear your assessment of the briefing that you attended earlier today with the video cam that was shown from the incident that happened in December.
Yes, ma'am. So everybody knows, everybody saw the communication that we got, and, I went on, on behalf of the chair, to attend. It was a briefing in advance of the release of this packaged video presentation. It was a pilot presentation. It's the first of, I guess, many that had come out, and from what I understand, the first in the South. So what the department did is there was the shooting, the police involved shooting in December, which is obviously, almost 7 months ago. So when the solicitor, Scarlett Wilson, released the ability to put out some of the information and they felt comfortable, the police department put together, and if you haven't seen the video, the whole presentation, my recommendation to all of you is watch from start to finish. Don't pick pieces out of it. Don't do clips. It's really good to get your perspective from start to finish. I attended that. There was 3 city council members there. and a couple of people from, representatives from the community. And it was very interesting. So we got the opportunity, obviously, since, we weren't watching it from home, to provide a lot of feedback. And there was good feedback because, we were looking at it from the perspective of, what's the public going to think of this? What's the pushback going to be? Where are the questions we have? Some of the community members who are true community representatives, on the streets, they have to go back to their people and they've seen this and they've got questions they asked. Nothing about the true investigation, but we were really positioned in what we thought of the video, the packaging. Was it a commercial? Was it objective? What it included? What it didn't include? What gaps we saw? So we talked about that quite a bit, and I think we spent almost an hour and a half giving feedback on how this presentation worked, certain areas where we think going forward, since this was their pilot presentation, and it's obvious that a lot of lawyers were involved in it, a lot of public relations folks were there. It was it was very informative. One of the things I think we all agreed on is there are people that are professionals at shooting these things down. So they will, no matter what you do, they will find fault no matter what. We as a group, we found on the good, the bad, things to recommend. What I was impressed by is, as Cpac, these are the things we should be included in, not just in watching it, but being able to provide the feedback. I think that's important for all of us to make ourselves available because we're giving them a perspective they can't see of themselves. So when we're asked as community members to give our feedback, we're not thinking as law enforcement officers, and we shouldn't. We're trying to look at it from the perspective, and oftentimes, I know the chief knows this and the other guys know, I like to play devil's advocate. Whether I agree or I don't agree, I'm the one that likes to, me and Jerry, I think Jerry's with me, I shoot holes in it because I want to find all the areas of opportunity. So I do recommend everybody watch it. I don't think that it's given us some ideas. One of the things that we recommended is it's very, to protect the victim, or the suspect who was killed. You don't see anything graphic in it. I mean, it's blurred out and everything else. And so that raises its own questions. So one of the things we recommended to Deputy Chief Walker is when we do our Citizens Police Academy, that, for us to get a perspective of what these officers see and do, as well as community members see when an incident like that happens, is part of their forensics day, not pictures of this scene, but have some pretty graphic pictures that aren't blurred out. So we can get an idea of what these young officers and people that are not experienced in seeing this, why their reaction may be what it is. So not just the event that happened, but the aftermath of it, because you're going to see as you watch the video, people are going to question why, rightfully so, because, Rich should ask questions. Why, after the shooting, some of the dialogue that happened, some of the questions that were asked, some of the assumptions that were made, it's easy to do that when you watch a video. If the thing wasn't blurred out, your questions may have been answered for you. So the public's going to have the same thing. So I think it's good for us to all get that perspective. Madam Chair, I mean, that's really the best thing I can say if unless somebody's got questions about anything specific. But I was thankful to be invited and to be able to participate. And again, I recommend every one of you make yourself available to this because that's a lot of our function here.
Thank you very much for sharing. And each person should have received that link to be able to get a chance to watch. And please send any comments that you have back to Deputy Chief Thompson.
And probably to Captain Cratella specifically for this piece. Twan, he's going to be over the internal affairs portion that's kind of responsible for guiding and getting that coordinated. So any feedback will be very helpful to him.
Got it. So please send it to Captain Cratella, council members. And thank you again Paul, for attending the briefing this morning. We were notified about it on day before yesterday. And unfortunately, my schedule was not accommodating, but fortunately, Paul's was. So thankfully, he was able to attend and participate. So Chief Reynolds, that was a little bit about just a little feedback on the video showing the briefing earlier today. Thank you again for ensuring that opportunity was afforded to us. And we look forward to having those opportunities again. We're hoping that we won't have those types of incidents happen again. And hopefully we'll be able to work harmoniously together to ensure that our community gets better at it and not have those kinds of events happen.
And if I could, I'll just reiterate how we handled that. It was actually just over 5 months ago. It happened at the end of December. And we said, and what we've done in each incident since then, within a couple hours, I will be on the scene or one of the deputy chiefs. It's been in me and each of the three that we've had since December. I will be on the scene and I will talk about what we know and give a statement, initial statement, and answer any basic questions that I can relative to what I'm able to say at that time. Within 24 hours, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing and capturing for everybody, just as a reminder, what we do with these critical incidents. These are all 3 officer-involved shootings. This is the first of 3 that we've had. I will have a stakeholders meeting, which is the same group that came in today and looked at this and had a discussion. Some of our community members, people from Cpac, council members, others, and we will have a discussion about the process, what to expect, and allow people to ask questions and have a general discussion. And the purpose of that being is to discuss and remind people about the process, and that we'll have an independent process where we will protect the independence, the integrity, and the clarity of that process, the investigation by SLED and what that looks like, what that entails. And then the fact that the solicitor for the 9th Circuit, Scarlett Wilson, has a defined protocol, and she will do her review process, and then she will make a ruling on those cases. And once she makes that ruling, that when we can, we're going to share what we know, and that's what we did today. So we're following up on what we said we were going to do. And that's exactly what we said back in December when this incident occurred. And we're following up and being consistent with what we've talked about. We can't always do everything on every incident. They're all going to be different. It depends on the facts and the circumstances, but we want people to know what has occurred in these instances. And we start from the minute that they occur. And so this was a continuation of that process. And we have another investigation of an incident that occurred. And we're working on that video as well to be able to release. And when you look at these, you'll see it if you haven't looked at the link already. There's a lot that happened with these, with 911 tapes, with the initial call for service, with the location. Is it dark? In this case, it was dark. You couldn't see much. If you only looked at the body-worn camera footage and nothing else, it would not really tell you much. So we put together an accurate, unedited, unaltered video, other than I think, like Paul just said, maybe the picture of the victim themselves and the injuries. And if there's a juvenile or there's somebody who maybe is not clothed, or there's some circumstances where we would need to do some editing. But essentially this is unedited and unaltered, and you get to see from the initial call to the conclusion of the main aspects of what happened. And it was a very short period of time, a matter of seconds, and who fired and how many officers were involved. And in this case, an officer was fired upon and was struck by a bullet. And that's the first time actually everybody's seeing that. And it took time through forensics, through interviews, through body cameras, through listening to the caliber of the weapon that was fired at the officer, and then listening to the caliber of the weapon and looking at the forensics from when the officers returned fire. And there's a lot that went into that. And the round that actually hit the officer there was forensics investigation that confirmed the bullet that came from the suspect's weapon had fabric on it, the round did, from the officer's uniform. And it took time to do all that. I'm not going to make an assessment on the scene of exactly what happened until we have those interviews, the forensic evidence, and a good investigation. And it's independent, and we want to protect the independence, the integrity of those investigations. So that's what happened today. And I'll tell you, I was up in Columbia. I'm actually driving back right now with Captain Bruder. We presented and kind of had some interaction up there. While we were up there, we went to a press conference with other chiefs and sheriffs from around the state, and Chief Keel he did a press conference, which is very rare. He does not do those very often. And he talked about the crime data that's coming out from the year 2020 and the trend so far in 2020 significantly. And he said that we had more murders in the state of South Carolina than we've had since they started collecting data in 1960. So I guess that's in 81 years, however many years they've been collecting data. We had the most homicides so far in 2020. They haven't finalized that data yet on record. We just recently became the #1 state in the country for the worst, unfortunately, for opioid-related overdoses and deaths related to overdoses with opioids. And one of the things that I know was discussed a little bit was some of our initiatives in the communities and working with the communities and doing everything we can to address crime and reduce that violence. And there's gang components. I know that I didn't see it yet, but there's a press conference today also around the same time from Chief Burgess, where they made some arrests. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there were 2 gang members that were related to the terrible shooting that they had up there where a 14-year-old girl was killed. And so we have a lot of work to do. And we're working together. We're working with our partners. We're working in collaboration. And there's a lot more that needs to be done, and working with the courts, with the solicitors, with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and with a lot of our task forces. And a big part of what we're doing is building trust. And I'll tell you, just as an affirmation and encouragement for the advisory council, although it may not always seem that everything you're doing is making a huge difference at the time, these conversations in America, in our city, in our state, are so important. And we talked about that today. We can't make our communities safe without everybody involved. It's a shared responsibility. It's a collective effort from all of us, and in particular, our community members. And if they don't trust the police, which is the case in many communities, then we have to work hard to rebuild that trust, to re-establish those relationships, to work together, to not over-police communities, to not cause harm, but to create solutions and to improve things and solve problems. And so that was part of what was discussed today at this press conference. It's certainly the work that we've embarked on. It's ongoing, and I think it's very timely, all these conversations we're having. And just the last thing I'll say, and certainly answer any questions, is I'm sorry to see, Joe, you leaving the committee, but I've got tremendous respect for you, tremendous gratitude. And I know you're not going anywhere. I know you'll be involved in our communities and making even a bigger difference, it sounds like, in the new responsibilities and the new influence that you're taking on.
Thank you so very much, Chief. Any questions for Chief?
I do, Chief. At the council meeting, when they were discussing the ordinance regarding the food trucks and also the curfew ordinance, which was withdrawn, you outlined several factors that was making law enforcement and public safety work more difficult. And it sounded like you had made that presentation to the Public Safety Committee as part of, your recommendation and rationale for actions that you were asking for them. I was wondering, is that presentation somewhere available so that if Cpac members or Cajun members or other groups who are interested in talking about the resources that the police department needs and the authority and the strategies that you're using, they can have that as a context?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We talked about that immediately following the council. I don't know if it's on the public safety committee, but what Jerry's talking about is I got a little emotional, and I shared a whole host of challenges that we have, and frankly, how we're not where we need to be in a lot of different areas in a lot of different ways. And I believe that we're making progress. And that link for the council session a week ago Tuesday is available. And so I think that would be, hopefully, would answer your question that people can access that. Yes. I don't think I did that separately because that was kind of more as a response to their questions, specifically Councilmember Waring, after a good debate amongst council, asked me to talk about the problems, and I laid out a lot of those issues. Two things were voted on. I'll touch on the youth curfew first. We proposed, and I say we, I was a part of the discussion, a youth curfew, which would basically, there was a geographic area around the business district where we've been having some pretty substantial challenges, and specifically violence and other issues that in many cases has involved young youth in the area of King Street and associated areas, parking garages, shooting, stabbing, some other things. And we proposed a curfew. If you're 16 or under, you would be prohibited from being in these areas after midnight. There was a tremendous amount of pushback on that from a lot of different groups. There's a lot of support for it, and frankly, I think it would have passed. But I discussed it after doing more research, after getting a lot of feedback, and my recommendation was, and it was, I think, unanimous, was that we not only defer it, but that we get rid of it altogether. It's off the table. It's no longer under consideration, because youth curfews are very controversial. It was never designed to be an outright solution. It was just going to be a tool that may be helpful at times. I think everybody agrees that young kids don't really belong in those areas at those times, where the only reason you'd be down there patronizing businesses that serve alcohol and our bars, etc. However, actually implementing something like that we could have been in use of force situations over what is essentially a status offense, like a runaway offense, chasing kids around the neighborhood. One side of the street you're okay, the other side of the street you're not, and frankly taking them into custody and trying to find a place for them, to warehouse them, to actually, the optics of that, the practicality of that, the legality of that, the application of that. It's one of those things that sounded like it might be helpful, but after I think some good discussion, that was taken off the table completely. And we started talking about other things. If the problems are after the bar closing, one of the issues is that a lot of places are still open, and it doesn't really, it's almost encouraging people to stay in those areas and there's over serving of alcohol. There's underage people drinking underage, being served underage. There's a lot of issues with the establishments down there. There's a lot of other, what I would describe, lower hanging fruit, things that we could do. And among those things, there's certain vendors that don't close. The bars might close. They might have last call at 1:30 and the bars are closed at 2. But you have food vendors, you have booze pops was one of the things that was discussed Tuesday night. And these vendors, they don't close at 2. They're still there till 3, 4. And there's other stores that are open. And in many cases, people are already overserved and intoxicated. And they'll go and get more beer, because they can. And so that was the discussion, I think, Jerry, that you're referring to. And we said, there's other ways to address this problem: more healthy, more productive, safer, frankly, just on so many levels more effective than a youth curfew. The youth curfew didn't get much discussion. I heard from a lot of people ahead of time. I think it was a good example of where we, I think, addressed, had a good idea in terms of the concern, but not the right solution. And so that was really, I think, quickly and properly and appropriately so, in my opinion, not only deferred, because it was going to be deferred, but it was taken off the table as something that really wasn't the appropriate answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And I
Any
will
other
tell you
comments?
that one of the, I'll just say that the one of the things that came out from that council session too, and what came out today, frankly, with our discussion about violent crime and what this advisory council in large part is all about, is these are not police-centric problems. And the answer is certainly not taking kids to jail. There are some systemic issues that need more attention, more structurally, on a lot of different levels. And that came out in our conversation about King Street, that we needed to do more on other issues, and that there were other, just like with the violent crime, that we need to work as partners. And so a lot of what we're discussing is right in line with a lot of those solutions and practices.
Thank you. Council members, we have about 4 more minutes. I think we have addressed all of the items. I will again send an email to you. Chief, I'll send an email to you to get that information for the May 30th and 31st. Thank you. And I've also sent to each council member the statements proposed to be included into the mid-year report for the audit committee. For the audit, I'm sorry, from the audit. Please review that and again, respond back by Monday, and so we can finalize that item. Again, I want to thank, I know they've already departed for tonight, but want to thank Director Gordon and Ms. Johnson for joining us for tonight's meeting. And of course, all of the members of the police department that have joined us for tonight's meeting as well. And again, those meeting dates, our next meeting will be August the 5th. And after that, October 7th and December the 2nd. The 2nd is a Thursday, the 3rd is a Friday. So it would be December the 2nd. Please again, stay tuned for information we'll receive from Deputy Chief Walker regarding our academy, our Citizens Academy, with finalizing or adding to those dates that were already accepted for October. And make a call, contact for your ride-alongs. Any other comments, any additions?
I'll send the packet for the ride-alongs, and everybody can just do them when they can. Doesn't have to be done by any certain time. You can stretch it out as long as needed.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion.
Moved.
Thank you. And it's been moved, and since we had Councilman Harris jumped in as well, I'll take that as a second for the adjournment, sir.
That's fine.
Thank you for everyone's attention. Those of you who are listening in, we so much appreciate you participating in tonight's meeting. And we look forward to you joining us either through any of the subcommittee meetings in the coming month, or definitely at our next meeting, August the 5th. Everyone have a good evening, and thanks again. Stay safe.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye. Thank you.